Hi, it's me, Jacqueline. Welcome to my channel. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and join me at Patreon. Link in the description. Each child wore a fresh, light summer dress, crisply starched. Neither Beth nor Vicky would permit trousers or shorts on a guest or hostess unless outside play was the reason for the visit. Since they were inside, the girls also had to endure crisp petticoats and a shaping girdle. Carol Sue especially complained about his girdle. But Beth and Vicky were adamant. Their girls would work on their figures all their lives if they were to have a waist, so the sooner Sandy and Carol were used to it, the better. The children also wore short cotton gloves. They were grateful to shed them at the first opportunity, although they protected their fresh manicures and nail polish. Light pink, befitting their youth. And a light pass of pink lip gloss. The scented powder and touch of lilac water counted mostly as heat relief, not cosmetics. The girls were too young for anything more than simple studs in their ears, although the girls were now allowed small hoops. The only other jewelry allowed was a small heart-shaped locket around the throat of each girl and a small glittering band before the girls' curls. Sandy was the perfect hostess, refilling tea glasses, asking if the guests would like more pimento cheese or sweet slaw. She was comfortable being helped by Angela, cooperatively polite with the servant, but not embarrassed to be served. From melon balls to sherbet, their little meal passed smoothly under their mother's watchful eyes and Angela's gentle assistance. Your Sandy is a very good hostess. Thank you, especially with dear friends. His only worry was whether Sam would approve. If she smiles at him, he's on cloud nine. If he thinks she is disappointed, he can be in tears. His birthday party next week will be a bit more complicated. But Maria always has enough activities to keep the children mixing. Sandy knows he is the center of attention when presents are opened and the cake is cut, but otherwise a good hostess makes sure all the guests are involved and enjoying themselves. I'm sorry I can't be there, but Friday is overwhelming getting the theater ready. If this weren't a dark week, I couldn't possibly take time even for lunch with you. And you know there's nobody I would rather have lunch with. I understand. Aunt Maria will fill in nicely. You will be there for the sleepover, won't you? As soon as I can get there. As I remember, at their age we used to nod off about midnight, despite vowing to stay up until the crack of dawn. Something like that. Now midnight feels like the crack of dawn. Beth picked up the crystal bell to ring it lightly. Not to be crass, how's business? Beth smiled. On schedule and on budget. For groups out this week and 4 groups over Labor Day. Then it's a little thin until the Nashville school groups pick up the last of September. Give me concerts and festivals. Except for January, it's a steady crowd. And steady income. Tours are a little more erratic. I do well enough, but it's hard keeping my hostesses solvent. I warn them to stretch their bonuses, but a girl with his first bonus? It's straight to the clothing sales. Honestly, if their girlfriends and their parents didn't help out, I suspect they might starve. Yes, ma'am. Dessert, please, Angela. If you have a load for the dishwasher, take a break and eat after you have cleared off the children's table. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Angela disappeared with the plates and utensils. Vicky's eyes followed Angela around the table. You know, you could do worse if you need to take a little edge off. Angela also comes in on Wednesdays. Beth nodded. If you want, I could take the children to Lake Chatham. We're always shut Wednesdays. That would give you an opportunity for a little personal maid care. If you've a mind to. Thank you, but like I said, I hate to poach. Still, if you change your mind. Angela quietly deposited footed saucers of pineapple sherbet before returning to the children. What about you? Do you think you might ask Kathy about making Bridget a live-in? Vicky shook her head. Despite my jest, the only thing I might do is take Bridget off for a little bonus trip, but I've got higher standards for someone I might try out for a name change. Not someone you would take home to Mother Frances, is he? No, definitely not. Since there is zero chance of a Komen accidentally starting to swell after getting to know one another, biblically speaking, some playful mischief isn't going to take things that far. Lust, not love, huh? Don't get me wrong. Someone to love and care for, who would do everything he could to satisfy me. I want that as much as the next woman. But until it comes along, which even in Haratan is a long shot for a divorced mother, I'll look for relief from someone who isn't expecting me to put a diamond on his finger and hang a platinum ring in his nose. I don't want to risk being entangled if the real thing comes along. Angela appeared in the doorway. Ma'am, the children are retiring to the game room. Thank you, Angela. Come along, Vicky. There's a gallon cooler of lemonade waiting there. Playing a little Chinese checkers without children won't hurt in the keeping up with changes category. Agreed. Just don't expect me to throw the game. Beth smiled. Vicky never could stand losing. Why don't we see if we can help our girls win at least once? The girls, being older, win almost everything. If our sons are to be fit wives, not just clinging arm candy, they need a few successes. We want healthy egos raising our grandchildren. Take one for the team? Something like that. Then, lead on, Macduff. As Angela began to clear the table, Vicky followed Beth down the hall. The cheerful sounds of the children announced that they were not yet settling down to play in the cool room on the hot day. Vicky glanced at her friend as they neared the open doorway. The pleats of Beth's peach dress swayed gently back and forth, crisp and precise just above the swell of her calves, accentuated by the height of the heels on her open-toed, sling-strap matching shoes. Every strand of her strawberry blonde hair was in place, a diagonal French roll leading up to a clutch of thick barrel curls centered slightly to the right of her crown. 2 enameled bracelets graced her right wrist, a thin gold watch her left, the single strand of pearls hanging lightly on her nape. By all appearances, Beth was past any lingering effects of her light depression from her divorce. Between caring for Frederica and Alexandra and getting her business, Cumberland Tours, thriving, she had had little time to mope. An image flashed through Vicky's mind's eye of Bill's astonished face when she had walked through the hotel door only to find him with 2 blonde groupies and Desibel. She had meant to surprise him with an early arrival for his birthday, only to be surprised TP find him in his birthday suit. His premature birthday party had ended abruptly, and with adultery as grounds, she had had no trouble getting the house, the cars, a cash settlement that would leave him in hock for years, and most importantly, the children. Inspired by one of his favorite songs, Bill had insisted on naming Carol, Sue, not that he had expected his son to be raised in petticoats and curls. Vicky smiled at the thought of how easy it had been to change Carol's name to Carol Suzanne when she had taken back her maiden name and changed the children's family name to hers, Taylor. Carol Sue had been so cute at the hearing, all sugar and spice, lace dress and tight ringlets, not yet 3. Samantha's hand-me-downs had provided a start for a wardrobe when she emptied out Carol's drawers and closet, along with everything Bill had left behind. Fortunately, Sam had thought teaching Carol how to be a girl was a wonderful substitute for a doll, even one that cried and blinked. When Beth moved back to Haratan a few months later in the throes of her divorce, it had been only natural that their children should become playmates, and that Sandy join Carol Sue as a girl. Over a large pitcher of Long Island tea, they had vowed that their daughters would never be victimized by men as they had been, and that their sons would be loving and supportive of whatever woman took them into hearth and home. The 2 women rounded the corner, catching sight of their 2 girls sitting beside each other, Carol Sue holding Bitsy and Sandy holding his Tabitha. They were as sweet as spun sugar, in lace and curls, their bright patent Mary Janes swinging lightly before them. The 2 girls were kneeling before the game cabinet trying to decide on a game to play with their younger siblings. Beth had insisted that they would neither watch television nor play electronic games. Freddie and Sandy were to play with their guests, not ignore them for some flickering dots of light. Their problem was deciding upon something challenging enough to satisfy them without frustrating the girls who had already hinted they should play house with their dolls. Have you 2 found something to play? Beth's polished nail tapped Freddie's shoulder. We were trying to decide on a picture puzzle. But the ones Carol Sue and Sandy can handle are so easy. That would be a good choice. You 2 could help the girls learn how to sort and identify likely pieces. But how about a game? Something where your dear old mothers could join in. Freddie shook her head, her chestnut puffs barely moving. That lets out, sorry. There's only space for 4. What could we play since the girls can barely count to 100, much less add? Well, not dominoes yet. How about Chinese checkers? They don't have to count for that. And 6 can play. Are you going to play with us, mother? Freddie and I won't stand a chance. Just as competitive as her mother. Oh, I don't know about that. We're old and rusty. You just worry about beating your brothers. Besides, it's not about winning or losing, but about playing together, helping each other to finish. Sam looked doubtful. If you say so, Ms. Brown. But somebody always finishes first. Vicky laughed. It won't hurt you to learn to lose graciously, so long as you do your best. Besides, you must be careful of Sandy's feelings. You wouldn't want your best girl all teary, would you? No, I suppose not. He can cry when I beat him too bad. That's right. He has to succeed enough not to become a clinging vine. Who knows? A few games and he might avoid having to play house. All right, Ms. Taylor. Chinese checkers, it is then. Freddie began to fumble in the cabinet. All right, boys, come sit on the floor. Mind your skirts. We're going to play Chinese checkers. Can Bitsy play too? And what about Tabitha? I don't want her to feel lonely. Why don't you sit next to us and your dolls can sit next to you and they can help you play? 'Kay? Each girl sat to his mother's right, spreading his skirt and tucking his legs underneath. Each sat his doll beside him, carefully smoothing and spreading the hem over the doll's knees. There, Sandy admonished Tabitha. You be a good girl and help your mommy. Beth smiled to see how Sandy's maternal instincts had grown. One day her baby would be all grown up, a bride, a wife, a mother. Beth gently stroked Sandy's long ringlets, then hugged him close. She caught the faint odor of violets from his scented talc. He was so precious, so pretty, she would hate having to give him up someday. Vicky squeezed her son's hand, looked down into his hazel eyes. With her free hand, she stroked the puff of his hair, plumped his thick curls. Carol Sue smiled at his mother, enjoying the comfort of her gentle touch. He batted his long lashes as her finger traced the rim of his ear. Cara Sue liked it that Vicky was especially warm each time he was all freshly done and prettily dressed. The girls slid into the spaces on the other sides of their mothers, leaning into them to steal some closeness away from their pretty brothers. When they straightened up, their hands slipped over to take that of the girl sitting next to them. I found it, Mom, Freddie announced triumphantly. May I have the red ones? Let your guests pick first, Freddie. Then you may pick since you have been such a big help. Please subscribe for the next part and visit my Patreon page for early access.